Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GMologist Presents podcast, the podcast where I more or less give recaps and field call-ins. I definitely want to get to more maybe theoretical and game content. It's just, got to get to it, I feel like, naturally. And maybe it'll come. This ongoing debate, I think, of historical games and is it too much work? How much work should you give the players, I think could be cool. So please give any thoughts or comments that you have in counter to what our call-inners give. So today I will field call-ins and give responses to those from Joe Richter and then Jason Connerly. After that, I just have a big recap for our Warhammer Fantasy game. We finished Book 1, Enemy in the Shadows. They saved Bogenhofen. No demonic incursion into the realm. So good on the heroes. So you'll hear that at the end, and enjoy. Thanks for listening.
Yo, Carl, I hate to do this, but I think I agree with Jason on this one, man. I would feel weird playing in a historical game that I wasn't familiar with the setting. Like, yeah, playing in, I don't know, a Napoleonic game, I don't know much about that at all, and I would feel like I was letting the crew down because I just don't have that baseline knowledge. I think the difference between playing in a historical game and playing in like a fantasy world game is in the fantasy world, even a setting like Forgotten Realms, you can be a little looser with the canon, but when you're playing in historical game, you want to be historical. You want to do that. So I don't know. Breaks my heart, but I think I agree with Jason. Peace out. Yo, Carl. So yeah, a little more on the historical games. It's not about me feeling like that I would need to do that research because obviously I wouldn't need to. No one, well, I don't know, there probably are game masters that would say, no, you can't play if you don't know, but, you know, most reasonable people would be like, yeah, it doesn't matter. But I would, again, it would feel like I was I would want to do that research. I would feel obligated to do that research. Knowing full well that I am not obligated, I would still feel that obligation because I'd want to be able to interact with the world and contribute to the game than just like a passive observer, which I wouldn't necessarily be, but I would sort of feel like that if I didn't know anything or much about the setting.
Hey, Joe, thanks for the call-ins. I'm going to try to talk louder and into the mic. Um, since I guess some people can't hear when I talk. I don't know. Anyway, I don't have a microphone. It's a guerrilla podcast, and I don't have a director or producer or usually have a script. I don't think I've ever had a script. Anyway, to maybe question you. So, would it help if someone had a primer for a game in a historical context? And I guess I find it hard to understand how to split that up. You say that like a fantasy world, well, it's a little different. Even the Forgotten Realms, people don't necessarily go by canon. Um, but I would go by canon, and I would probably argue some points. If I went back to the roll of years and said, well, this happened in this year of the dragon, and blah blah blah. And if I play a game of the Forgotten Realms, for hell sure I'm going to be wondering if the GM is going to break canon, but that's just me, right? So, and does it? I think it's interesting this contrast. If we play DCC Fantasy and you don't know shit about the world, that's okay. But if we play in the Napoleonic era and you don't really know much other than, Waterloo, maybe the Talavera campaign in Spain because of the Sharp series, that's not okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you need to know the politics of France at the time or the rest of Europe, or who was the king of England. It was probably a George. I don't think it was Victoria yet. It was probably a George. Your bet would be safe. What was going on in the U.S. at the time? They were getting over all the money lost in the War of 1812. I mean, Louisiana Purchase in 1803 from Napoleon, from France. I mean, there's a lot of the stuff we got in history, and you really don't need to know, I think. Um, but interestingly, Jason also mentioned Harn, and Harn there is canon, but it's only up to 720. So everything after 720 doesn't, is all what you create. You don't need to know. You need to know almost it. You need to know as much as a peasant, right? I mean, who's your liege lord? Can you leave the fief or not? Hopefully not, because that would be a really um, short and not very fun campaign. Although I think there was a pre-gen. I think Matt's. I think a character's pre-gen in our Harn game did actually leave or run away from their fiefdom and would probably be in trouble if they ever got caught. So yeah, I don't know. I guess like I said, it's hard wrapping my head around why it's easy to play most fantasy games without knowing the history of the world, even though it probably is like thousands and thousands of years, right? Um, so versus a world based in history. So is playing in the world of Conan difficult? According to your view of history, that might be true history, but we really don't know about it because there's no archaeology or literary reference to it. It's just what, Robert Howard wrote when he was, getting those when what Robert E. Howard wrote, as he claims, while Conan was talking to him from the Nether. So I don't know. It's an interesting dilemma, and can continue to debate it. I think most players will be fine, but it definitely is something as an actionable to have a primer. What is going on? What is a basic history? Like a lot of Call of Cthulhu books, the main book is it the main book? Yeah, the main player's book has like a recent chronology, what's going on in the world, so people can immerse themselves in the 1920s or in Victorian London or whatever. So, and of course, we don't need to know the history if we're playing a modern game, right?
Yo, dude, me again. Your Twilight 2000 campaign sounds awesome. I still can't shake the idea that Twilight 2000 is a sci-fi game, but that's just because of the name, man. I don't know what it is. As far as the Roll20 thing goes, you could also use the dice roller little tool on Roll20, and that way, it's not tied to any character sheet, so the players wouldn't be able to see what was rolling the dice. They'd be able to see what dice you were rolling, but you could tell it's rolled 2d6 or D percentile or whatever you're rolling. But yeah, that might be an option for you. But then again, rolling real dice is fun. Anyway, man, peace out.
Hey Joe, where to start? Um, it probably wouldn't be a big deal, except of course I've been raked over the coals for revealing too much because of the virtual platform, and I guess I'd need to take steps to make things less transparent. I mean, I know that Arlen Walker has talked about transparency in the roles and and I think that's important, right? In the case of the Twilight 2000 game, if they had confronted the tank, then I would have rolled everything on the table because I wouldn't want to be accused of pulling punches, and that was part of my nervousness. Is that I don't want this tank to shoot its 125 millimeter gun because any scenario where the APC were to be hit by it would be pretty disastrous, right? Not just the loss of the vehicle, but the loss of the occupants within, plus the loss of all the equipment, like the distilling equipment. Yeah, it would have been very unfortunate. But rolling on the table I think is important. And I last night, just trying to think through it. Last night I pulled up a character sheet because it's easier to just one click a button, and I hit it, and then the character exclaimed, "Oh, I know what we're fighting," or "Something's fighting us." But and whether that was the case or not, the surprise or the element of surprise is ruined. And is it that character's fault for blurting that out? I don't know. Keep it to yourself. Maybe he's trying to be funny. Who knows? And even then, when you roll the dice, like even on the easy roll dice bar that they have on Roll20, then you can have exclamations of, "Oh look, something's coming! The GM's rolling a lot of dice." Man, I guess maybe just keep it to yourself. Don't ruin it for others if that could ruin it. So hence, rolling dice, real dice, so then no one knows what you're rolling or why you're rolling it or when you're rolling it. You're just rolling dice off the table. Maybe they know something, but it's like rolling behind a screen. Is that better? I don't know. I mean, I can pull up the character sheet instead of rolling on the D20 or virtual 20, then roll on the table. So I guess it's a dilemma, and maybe again I'm overthinking it or working myself over it, and it's causing too much consternation when I should just be focusing on getting that primer together for my next pseudo-historical game.
So, Carl, to answer your first point about the historical games, so in Harn, yeah, I don't need to know the history of the kings, but I need to know the peoples. I need to know who I'm interacting with, and I need to know the religions and the religions I'm interacting with and the intricacies of that, which were pretty intricate. Or, I feel like I'm weighing the party down because the other people, or at least Arlen, knew that stuff. So, yeah, there still is homework with that. Less so in a fantasy world because it's just D&D, and we treat that lighter than we do, or I treat it lighter because D&D is silly, where Harn is more serious. Because the D&D novels suck, so you wouldn't read those? So, there's no need to know any of that D&D history because it's all just a silly elf game. Where Harn is a real serious game, and you have to know that, or you rock the boat. You know what I mean?
So, like I suggested to Joe, would a primer help with Harn in Harn World, or at least a kingdom primer in the kingdom that you were in? Does it really matter? I guess it seems to, right? So it could be covered in a session 0 or it could be given as a handout. Does that count as homework? The players have to read it, maybe as a handout, and the GM reads the handout. I think that's a great idea, and it really helps. I mean, I really like the world, and it can be very immersive, and I definitely would want to share and get people up to speed. So that's, I think, a great idea, fantastic suggestion, and yeah, Harn primer coming to a game near you? Maybe. We'll see.
Hey, Carl, I'll have to finish the rest of the episode later, but yeah, I mean, I'll play whatever, and I'll play Traveler. It sounds fine. Whatever. It's, like I say, if you run it, I'll play it. I still think that there'd be homework involved. And, yeah, 7 Seas still sounds like a very uncool setting. So, yeah, you're not going to win that argument. But, what was I going to say? But, too. No, the Savage World's good. If you're going to play Wise Guys, you would have to do a different scenario, or I'll just sit that one out, maybe. I guess I could pretend not to know it. I helped playtest that game before it was published. I've run that scenario. I've, like I say, GM that scenario and been a player in that scenario. So I don't know that I could be a player again, I guess, and just play stupid. But it's good. Eric Lamoureux did a good job with that.
I don't know who Karen is and why the guys became wide as opposed to wise, but rest assured I would change things up. Even if I ran that adventure, though I feel like in Savage Worlds it's not so hard based on my Deadlands running and play to just come up with something off the top of my head. Well, draw a few cards and come up with something. So it'd be really cool to do that with Wise Guys. Would it? I don't know. Would it be? I think I have some cool ideas. Maybe I'll have to go back and look at some old CSI episodes. The real good CSI, not the shitty ones that came after. Um, but the CSI Vegas with the really good actors, and that ran a long time. It had some cool stuff. So yeah, Wise Guys, maybe I'll think about that one. That could be kind of neat as a mini campaign of one shot, a few shot. Maybe I could prep it for the Thursday night thing. So with our Thursday night anchorites, plus one more. All right, thanks Jason for the call and comments.
I know I'm coming across really negative today. Bad day at work. I had to sneak out to try to listen to some of the podcasts. But if you run Traveler, I'll play it. If you run Seven Seas, well, I'm glad the system's is hard to understand. So hopefully we won't play Seven Seas. Hopefully you'll run a Savage Worlds-based pirate game. There are a bunch of them. Why not just run whatchamajigger, the one they put out? You know, where you get teleported there and you have the three things and I'm brain farting the name of it. There's a Savage Worlds pirate setting that's been out forever. Why not just run that? That's got to be better than Seven Seas. Or, well, I had Buccaneer too, but Buccaneer was kind of, I don't know. But I'd play Buccaneer too over Seven Seas. You know, just use Savage Worlds, man. Savage Worlds is where it's at. But I know I'm being negative. I'd play Traveler. I'd play whatever you run because, you know, I enjoy your jam style. Take it easy. Talk to you later.
I believe the name of the product that you are searching for is Pirates of the Spanish Main. And actually, I think I ran Amy through one of the scenarios. She wanted to do Savage Worlds, and she said, "Oh, I want to play this." So I think we did it, and I might have run one of the scenarios in here with her. I believe. I'm kind of checking it out. It's actually pretty comprehensive. It's like 200 and some pages, really, really detailed. Actually, it might be kind of hella cool to run. Did she run? I think we started running. We started it, and we got to one of the particular scenes, but it might be fun to pick that up again. It starts in Port Royale. Very neat. And I think, how far did we get? I don't know how far we got. Oh, I think we got to this one. Yeah, we got halfway through to scene 3, so pretty neat, pretty well done. So I think Amy was playing solo. I don't know if another player whom you played with before was playing as well. I can't remember, but yeah, that was pretty cool. What was I gonna say about the 7C thing? I don't know. I guess I like the verse now that I know, or I've come up in my mind what the deal is for Thera. I guess that's what is that, an anagram of Earth? Is it? Probably. Maybe. Yeah. So, but I have an idea, what that means and why it is as it is. But could you adapt 7C to Savage World? Probably. I bet you there's a hack out there. I'll check it out. So is it the world, or is it the system, or is it both? I guess that's the question. Anyway, there is Pirates of the Spanish Main, which is a really good product. That orchestral warm-up was to introduce an epic session of Warhammer Fantasy RPG, the 4th edition. So last night we were able to finish the Enemy in the Shadows, which is the first book in the Enemy Within mega campaign for Warhammer Fantasy 4th edition. They've reprinted it. It was originally done in 1st edition. I wonder if there's an edition in every single. There might be. I'm not sure. I don't remember one for 2nd. I know they tried something for 3rd, but it was very different. Definitely it's a recreation of the 1st edition book. so similar plot lines. Anyway, when we last left the heroes, and we play live, it's really cool. We play at Dragon's Lair, San Antonio, the medical center one, and we have a room where we play. So it's more semi-private. We can get up, walk around, browse, buy snacks and retail items in the store, order food. There's a couple places in the shopping center. I think pizza was the order of the day yesterday. So when we left our heroes, they had cased the warehouse district and found a suspicious warehouse, and had gone back to the Grand Duke's pavilions to prepare because of the success of one of the player characters in the joust, the Elven Knight, Morastra. They were given a lot of goods, and for their success, it was a resounding success. It looks like to all except for this inner circle that Primus von Bildhofen, the son of the Grand Duke, actually had won, and he was not known to be a man of martial prowess, more of a bookish type. And yeah, they did a great job that last time, and now they're awaiting because they knew something bad was going to happen based on the waxing chaos moon Morrisleb that hung low over Bogenhafen in the night sky. So the next day, in the morning, they got a very interesting invitation, apparently because one of the players had been asking about the Ordo Septenarius in town, specifically at the Temple of Shalia. One of the members of the Ordo Septenarius invited them to brunch. He said, everything's good, it's all good, we're all good here. We're just a bunch of, rich, wealthy merchants who want to remain anonymous and give out great donations to these worthy causes. So you don't have to ask questions. It's all good. The players actually played it cool. They're pretty coy about it. They didn't ask too many questions, and they're like, okay, no worries. So then they decided to head back to Uncle Joseph's boat. I think it's called the Barabelli, and hang out. Morastra took his whole menagerie. He has a destrier, a large draft horse, and a riding horse. Oh, and a dog. I think it's called a Talian pit bull. So a big mean dog. So like a mastiff of some sort. I think it's like a Napoleonic, Nepalese, Naples Mastiff type. Well, it looks pretty vicious, and its name is Fang. So they were hanging out. They had told this magistrate that had met them earlier for brunch, sure, you can leave us a message at this inn, and if you need to contact us. So they wanted to try to hit Schaffenfest one more time and get supplies, and then go back around and check out the inn by afternoon. So they found their apothecary that they had trucked with before, and were able to find this person, packing their stuff up because Schaffenfest was ended, and this person was heading home to a nearby town village, but they were able to buy some herbal concoctions to help them if they were to get wounded, because they figured there would be a big fight that night as they took on this cult they felt were going to do something bad, perform some sort of ritual. Who knows? They knew it was going to be bad. Anyway, they do go back to around the inn, and they get a note from this magistrate that he has an urgent message to tell them at his house, and they get directions to his house. They get there. They're greeted by a servant, and the servant leads them to the office of this magistrate, and kind of acts a little strange. But they get the servant to open the door, and they see inside, and it turns out that this magistrate has been murdered. And sort of like clouds come over so there's like probably a window at the back, and sun shining in, clouds kind of come over, create shadows. They look around and they don't see the servant anymore. They find the dead body. There are a couple clues there. A note that it looks like the magistrate stuffed into his mouth before he perished, and he wrote something with his blood, like a clue on his desk with his blood. So they quickly assess the situation, realize it's a trap, especially when the servant calls out, the watch, help, murder, the watch. And also the servant taunts them in a weird demonic voice. So they act pretty quickly. They had ridden their horses over there, and Morastra, the elven knight, ran to the front to get onto his horse. And he said he kind of called out the watchmen who were running around and led three of them away. At least there was a group of four, led three of them away. One of them kind of stumbled, didn't know what to do. So the sergeant called back and said, "Hey, find out what's in the house." The others open the back window and jump out. One runs around the house and almost runs into the guardsmen. The other two run out the other way. One runs around the house to where the animals are as well, in the opposite direction. And one just kind of jumps over the wall and says, "Okay, I'll meet you back at the boat." So that was Reginald, who said, "Yeah, I don't want to get involved. I'm going to jump and reach you back at the boat." Sebastian is the one that ran into the guardsman, or at least waved him over the wall, tried to pretend he was a servant, and Ulrich was coming around to get the rest of the animals. So Fang, the Chilean Mastiff pit bull, had taken off with Morastra as well. So let's do Morastra first. He did not fare well on the riding. He had a mishap where a cart got in the way and it dumped him from his horse, which allowed the three watchmen to catch up. He's still far enough away that he's able to jump back on his horse. He had a slight injury, no big deal, but he takes off. The guardsmen keep pursuing. One drops back, not wanting to pursue or unable to pursue, or caught up as they're riding through the streets of Bogenhofen. But Morastra makes a wrong turn and ends up in an alley. He doesn't see a way to get out. And then two guardsmen catch up and confront him, ask him to surrender. Morastra is having none of that. He tries to push past on his horse, but the guardsman is a savvy veteran sergeant and doesn't let him pass by. So then Morastra feels he has no choice and attacks, and effectively takes out two of the watch. One of them was brutally pulled to the ground by Fang, who latched onto the guy's face, ripped out his eye. Yeah, it was a crit and a nasty amount of damage. And I think the savvy player who plays Morastra, figured out a really cool tactic that he can use now in tandem with his faithful fighting dog. So he took down the other one. He's a mounted knight against two footmen, and it was not really a contest. So he unfortunately ended up killing two guardsmen, and took off to the boat, told people what had happened. Of course, Reginald had gotten there first because he just walked to the boat. Uh, Sebastian and Ulrich had this run in with another guardsman, and Sebastian could not convince really the guardsman successfully that he was just a house servant. The guardsman had asked Ulrich to stop, and Ulrich sort of ran him over with the draft horse. Uh, did not kill the guardsman. The guardsman got up. Ulrich took off, but took a swipe for his troubles of a sword to the some sort of hand weapon to the arm that injured him. But he took off. Sebastian again trying to convince the guardsman that he's going to go get help. The guardsman tries to grab Sebastian, who is grabbed but does not get pulled off his horse. Has the horse drag the guardsman a little bit until the guardsman gives up. And Sebastian says, okay, I'm going to go get help. Of course, never comes back. So they leave one injured guardsman, 2 dead, and 1 guardsman out of breath. But of course, that guardsman is likely the one that finds his companions in the alleyway. So now the watch is looking for murderers of a magistrate and guardsman in the town. But they huddle up in the boat and they don't do anything foolish. So they wait till nightfall and they sneak out to the warehouse where they think this ritual is going to take place, based not only on their on the ground intel, but the clues that this murdered magistrate left behind. And we all know how this goes, right? You try to sneak into a place, and inevitably, someone's going to miss their stealth roll. But the crazy thing is that they did not. They did not take their horses. They used a boat to get onto the backside of the warehouse, on the docks that abut the warehouses, and using a combined, the Ulrich is a boatman, so using some boating skills to figure out the right and proper channels and lanes to stay out of sight, and then the 3 of them who are not heavily armored stealth sneak to the warehouse and climb in. They had cased the joint before, so they knew where to go. Coffee, and they get there sort of in between people arriving, which is kind of cool. I asked them, there's like a timeline provided by the adventure, and I asked them like what time they're getting there, and it worked where they got there in between people arriving or people doing preparation. So they heard preparations below. Meanwhile, on Morastra, the Elven Knight is watching. He sees another cart come, and they have a bundle that's struggling. So Morastra, kind of signals his group. The group hears what's going on, and they signal Morastra back. So then Morastra. So the crazy thing. So there's this fog, and there's these guards all around, or thugs waiting all around to hold, to kind of guard the place. But the crazy thing is that even Morastra, with minuses for having plate armor, sneaks in like the wind to the warehouse, avoiding the outer picket of guards or thugs who are not doing their duty, I guess, or don't see him in the fog. Who would have known that the chaos fog would have protected those who were trying to stop it? Interesting. It's ironic. But chaos gods are fickle, aren't they? So they have a good plan. They got things set up. As soon as they start hearing the ritual starting, the 3 that are in the warehouse already start moving down from the downstairs where they were hiding to the warehouse floor. They sneak really well, and they get the drop on the ritual. While Morastra crashes in through a window to cause a slight distraction, the synergy works, and 2 of the players, Reginald and Sebastian, let loose with bow and arrow and hit the sorcerer performing the ritual. He stops the ritual and has to now confront a charging Ulrich, who hits him in the gut. A fight ensues, and they do pretty well. I did get some spells off. I blasted Ulrich pretty good, uh, and they saw that there were two sorcerers, not just the main sorcerer performing the ritual, but another one who cast some sort of spell that exploded in blue fire. So I guess what happened is that the primary sorcerer, who they later learned was the leader of one of the House Tugan, fired a chaos bolt at Ulrich and hurt him pretty bad. The other sorcerer threw this ball of blue flame that exploded and did more damage to poor Ulrich and then to Sebastian and Reginald, and they all caught on blue fire. I believe that took Ulrich down. He was damaged too badly from the bolt and the blast. And actually, I think it was later in the second round of the combat that the fire took him down. The blue fire took him down. But they were able to put the fire off on them that they had, which is probably a good thing. It's one of those, like if they were, I think it's called the spell called the Blue Fire of Tzeentch. So if you die, there is a chance that your body will explode into those gibbering horrors. That does not happen, though, fortunately. So Marastra and Fang charge the main sorcerer, do not take him down. Oh, Marastra misses, but Fang grabs his arm and tears into it, but effectively bites off the sorcerer's hand, so the sorcerer is done for. I think before Ulrich goes down, he gives him a hook to the shoulder and pulls down the sorcerer, who more or less expires. The other spellcaster, though, turns out to be this demon that has been harassing the group even from the outset of their Bogenhafen adventure, and tears off his robes, turns into a demon. I think that was actually after Reginald had charged him and sliced into him and done some damage. The creature only gets one attack off, but rips into Reginald, nearly fells him. But then a combined force of Reginald, Marastra, and Fang take out the demon. They got several hits, but the demon's toughness kept it alive a little longer. But yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of the chanting group in the Ordo are freaked out and panicking. All the players did make their fear check against the demon. Ulrich is on the ground unconscious. The rest of the Ordo tries to escape out of the warehouse. They're stuck at the door. They're trying to break through. Marastra and Fang take one down. Sebastian shoots into the crowd and then goes to check on the prisoner, make sure that they're okay. Reginald then goes into a murderous rage, hating all things chaos, takes one down. They blast open the door with the combined panic and weight, and try to run off into the night. But then at that point, the combat had won. The ritual had been stopped. So I did a few little, montages. The funnest montage was with Reginald, where effectively he chases all these cultists. I mean, they're merchants, they're not fighters. He chases all these cultists, doesn't care who they are, doesn't want to give them any mercy, is able to take down 4 of them in a murderous rage of righteous anger as he chases them through the streets of Bogenhafen. One did get away. I don't know if that will matter. So Reginald then, he wakes up the next day in an alley covered in blood. A guardsman wakes him up and says, "Hey man, I guess you had a night." So they take him in, and Reginald explains to the guard captain what happened. Actually is able to convince and blame the murders of the 2 watchmen on the cultists. And the guardsman says, "Well, yeah, let's not talk about this anymore. I don't want to bring shame to Bogenhafen or these families, but it's probably best that you leave Bogenhafen." So good resolution there. The other players, they stay and clean up things in the warehouse where the ritual is taking place. When the Sigmarin temple strikes midnight, there is a puff of blue and pink and purple smoke, and the body of the sorcerer from the House Tugan is absorbed, or his body's pulled back into chaos. Marastra looks over there, sees something foul, and they all flee in terror. Eventually they get back to the boat. No one's dead. Ulrich had to be carried out, but he is still alive. And they're all beat up, used a lot of fate and resilience to survive the combat. But now they're just waiting for a bunch of wine to be loaded onto the Barabelli, and then they'll sail upriver and into further glory, I hope. So we'll probably start Death on the Reich in a couple of weeks. I got to figure out how to hook them in. They got a lot of experience that they get to burn and spend. And we'll probably do like an endeavor, set of endeavors, probably like a month of endeavors while there's nothing really adventurous going on. They're just helping Uncle Joseph on the Barabelli and training. It's a very good session. I hope you enjoyed the recap. It's a really good adventure. And what I liked about it is that players can get to this place. I mean, yes, stopping the ritual is the big thing. But I would say that the players did not go in the traditional way of finding out where the ritual would take place. They laid low, they were pretty discreet. They had the patronage of a powerful lord just by happenstance. The joust is not really part of the adventure. It just sort of happened as a side thing. A lot of the things in Schaffenfest happen as side events. So I feel like even though there was this plot that the players meandered through to get to the end and save the town of Bogenhafen, more or less anonymously, as is usually the case in Warhammer Fantasy games. They went about it in a way that gave them a lot of player agency and will, I think, propel the story further, both the main plot of the enemy within campaign and also the development of the characters, right? They have a powerful patron they might be able to call on who in a way owes them a favor. It just changed his life. I don't know, maybe they don't care about ever coming back to Bogenhafen, but the people of Bogenhafen, at least some of them know, or one important person knows that they did well. They might have left an enemy behind. We'll see. So all in all, a really good session. Very much enjoyed it. We went next door to the bar to have a beer afterwards and decompress and debrief the session, which is always really fun too. So there you go. Warhammer Fantasy recap. Hey, they saved Bogenhafen. Again, thank you for listening. That was a long recap of the Warhammer Fantasy game. I hope you enjoyed it. I do have more games this weekend. I think I have 2, maybe 3 games coming up this weekend. Our DCC Fantasy game that I gotta go and prep a little for, although I don't know where the characters are going yet. I have where they are, but who knows where they're going. Then on Sunday, we have Ash of Valuria run by Arlen Walker of Live from Pelham's Wasteland, and also our Ravnica Down and Out in the lower place of Ravnica. I don't know what it's called. Oh, Down and Out in Sector 6 or something like that. And that's run by Kevin Madison of the Dungeon Musings. I get to play a big beefy Minotaur. So take care, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.